Elizabeth, you're a Senior Director e-commerce at CommerceHub. What's your job and what does CommerceHub do?
So I am the Senior Director of E-commerce Growth Services at CommerceHub, which is a very delightfully vague title that kind of encompasses my background in paid search, but also our capabilities across different channels or search, social, and marketplaces. And CommerceHub we do a little bit of the demand solutions, so feed management. We send to the different channels like Google, Bing, or Amazon, but we also do dropship. So we have a network of 9,000 distributors or suppliers throughout the United States, UK, and Canada, and we allow our clients to expand their inventory online virtually without having to hold that assortment in their warehouses.
So at this year's SMX, you're talking about retargeting. If you talk to people who are not that familiar with advertising and you explain what retargeting is, they will all say, okay, that's this annoying format where the products follow you and it's something a bit scary and they don't like it. The reason is that they probably don't understand what's going on. They see these ads too frequently and it's sometimes not a good user experience. What would you recommend an advertiser to avoid that exactly this thing happens?
So a couple of things. Obviously within systems usually there's a feature called frequency capping, so you can decide how many times you may or may not show to a user. So if you don't put those in place, you might actually be that annoying advertiser that follows them around throughout the day. So if you put in something pretty low, like if it was you, how many times would you want to see that ad? So probably no more than 5 is usually a good rule of thumb. And then additionally, being able to utilize those other features within those platforms like negative audiences. So adding an audience that only looked at the product for less than 30 seconds, or maybe they didn't convert, maybe how soon after you want to remarket to them. So I know I personally get very annoyed when I go to a website and I look at a product for less than 30 seconds and then I leave and then I get remarketed to it for the next week. It's very clearly not what I wanted and I hit the back button. So, don't put those audiences in there, exclude them.
And what would you recommend an advertiser in general? How to tweak retargeting performance? What are the best strategies?
There's a lot of really good strategies. So you could do people who put things in a cart and abandon. So that's a pretty common one, cart abandoners. There's the ability to target to people that have looked at multiple product pages or category pages. I heard of one company that Google actually has the case studies publicly facing. They decided not only to target cart abandoners, but they segmented the cart abandoners by how much they abandoned in the cart. So somebody who abandoned $10 may not be as worth as much as somebody as a visitor that abandoned $100. There's that, and then obviously anybody who looks at multiple product pages or is clearly comparison shopping and looking at multiple options throughout your site. There's another audience that you could segment by to really drive home how much you want to spend to get that visitor again.
So it's basically all about getting more granular and targeting people more specifically.
It's the best way to do it, at least as far as who you want to go after versus who you don't want to go after.
So something interesting I've recently seen is that one of the leading European e-commerce retailers, instead of bidding up in Google RSA, they bid down because they don't want to target existing customers. Have you seen something similar? Do you think it's a good strategy? What's the rationale behind such a thing?
I actually haven't heard about that one too much, but in a way it makes sense. So, I mean, you already have that visitor in one way or another. So you've engaged with them in some way. And I can understand not wanting to pay more for that visitor to come again, especially if you're depending on the attribution model that you are using. I would say that it depends entirely on within that RLSA audience. Are you just do you not want to talk to them ever again? Do you hope that they'll come back? Maybe they're a subscriber. Actually, you know what, now that I think about it, there is one instance where I can think that you would really want to use that, and that's if you have like a login page. So if you didn't want to capture people that searched for, say, the login page or how to get it into their account, I can see where you would waste a lot of spend on that.
Retargeting in general in the last click metrics looks amazing. It's great. However, we also know that a certain amount or a certain portion of people would have bought anyways without seeing this retargeting ad. So they just use it as a shortcut, are lazy, get to the website again, and then they make a purchase they would have done anyways. How do you actually measure incrementality of retargeting campaigns?
So it's difficult because you do, on often, we have a CFO that says last click, right? Where did the money come from? Where did it go in? And unless you can all agree on an attribution model that gives some kind of weight to a remarketing method, because no, it should not be taken at last click. That's not the first engagement. Is, do you do a time decay model? Do you do something position based or linear? But you just have to agree on what it is that makes sense for the remarketing method.
At CommerceHub, you deal with Google, but also other channels, among others, Amazon, I would assume. And you're probably aware of the neck-to-neck race of Google and Amazon. What would you think will make it on the long run? Who will win this battle?
Well, I think they're both going to win. I think it comes down to who's probably not them that will lose more than anything else. But Google and Amazon obviously are going to compete pretty heavily on the product search side. So, I mean, arguably you could say it's almost a 50-50 split as far as where product searches begin. What I think will be interesting in the long run is where does the budget come from when you decide you're going to advertise on Amazon? So when you put together your budget, Amazon's not necessarily one of the channels you put together. As you look at Google, you look at Bing, you look at Facebook, but Amazon is not technically at the top of the list for some companies yet. And then additionally, even if you have that budget, who's going to spend it? Who manages it? Where did it come from? Are you going to cut it from another channel? Are you going to cut it from another advertising source? So in the end, I think they both win because they're going to see their budgets go up. But I'll be curious to see where brands and retailers take the money from.
So we see today that Google is getting quite close to the Amazon experience. It's sort of a marketplace, although it's not really. At least, well, when it comes to purchase on Google, then it's clearly a marketplace model. But Google is kind of getting more and more similar to Amazon. There's one major difference eventually. That's logistics. So Amazon counts on the centralized warehouses, whereas Google has more distributed approach to logistics. Do you think that Google has any chance on the long run to compete against this, the efficiency of the Amazon logistics?
Absolutely. I mean, I never would count Google out for not building some kind of network themselves or partnering in some way that would make sense, or maybe they'll even acquire it. They have a history of buying companies, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what you want your brand experience to be. So do you own the customer, in which case you're probably going to lean more heavily towards a Google advertising plan versus, say, Amazon, who owns the customer, where you don't. So if you spend a lot of money or time and effort on your brand experience and you want to keep that and you want to keep that customer, then you'll make your choice.
Imagine you were Amazon. Years ago, you had a heavy investment into Google AdWords, text ads mainly. Then Google changed the playing field and they went into Google Shopping, displaying these product ads. Initially, you said, that's nothing we would like to be part of, so we don't play Google's game. But now, as Google Shopping is taking over and it has a 70% share of spend already, what would you do? Would you really go for it and expose all your products on Google Shopping, or would you rather not be part of the shopping platform?
I feel like if I'm Amazon, then I have to have some kind of presence, and I would be very specific or picky as to what categories I choose to do that in. So it wouldn't be all of the verticals or all the categories. It would depend on competition, number of other sellers, and whether or not there's an upsell opportunity through Amazon. So if I can get them over onto Amazon for a smaller or a entry-level product and then upsell them, with my 2-day shipping and Prime membership and that network, then it might be worth the investment.
And don't you think you would feed the beast? Like today, people would miss the most important products. The most relevant retailer is not active on Google Shopping. So isn't this maybe a reason that people start their search on Amazon and that they have the 55% share?
Well, actually, part of it is if you look at some of the Google Shopping results today, I mean, you look at one result and it'll say eBay, and then it'll say Walmart, and then it'll say Amazon, it says eBay, and then Walmart, and it's getting pretty ugly. So at the same time, you almost, in a sense, you're feeding the beast, but you're also creating that same noise and keep maintaining the noise to make it harder to find those products. So if they look at it and they go, oh, hey, Amazon, I know what that is, I know where it is, and I know I'll find what I want there, then you're more likely to get that customer.
Elizabeth, thanks a lot. It was a great interview. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.